What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Indy Sooner on the JP and Trav show. It's always your boy JP. Below me, we have my esteemed co-host Travis Davidson. Trav, how you feeling today, man?
Great, great, feeling great. Really looking forward to this Kansas State matchup. Under the lights, we saw the LEDs for the second half against Kansas State. Obviously, coming off a big historic win against the Huskers. But yeah, just excited, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to my right and above Trav, we have a guest to the show today. His name is Andrew, and he has a personal account, but he also runs the Sideline Kansas State account. So, Andrew, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Man, of course, of course. It's always good to get another perspective on the show, especially the people you're playing this week. And man, I appreciate you hopping on in such short notice. And I'm really excited to as we kind of get into it to break this game down. Obviously, it's a little bit more of one of the more anticipated games in the Big 12. Obviously, now again, we'll let you get into this. Probably would have been more anticipated had the gaff with Tulane not happened last week, right?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you guys are still a formidable team, and I know we're not going to take you lightly at all.
Yeah, looking forward to that matchup. It should be a good one.
Yeah. All right. Hey, let's go ahead and get into it really quick, guys. We're just going to recap really quickly the Nebraska OU game. Just what were your impressions on the 49-14 victory? Some would say complete domination, right, of Nebraska in Lincoln. Travel, start with you. And then again, Andrew, if you have any insight at all, if you watched the game, just any impressions you had at all, that would be fine as well. So, Trav, go ahead, man.
Yeah, for those of you that know, I was at the game there on the sideline, right in the thick of it. Incredible. First of all, I know all this Bedlam drama is going on. Screw Bedlam. You can leave them for sure. Give me Nebraska annually. It was such a great trip. Nebraska fans were fantastic, so kind. Easy to see why they sell out that stadium for every game since 1962 because they treat the fans really well. The game day experience is fantastic. They have their basketball arena is incredible. Obviously, city funded. It's right next to a massive bar district. That was obviously part of a tax package. And then you've got all the parking lots, sky bridges, like a sports bar under a overpass, all kinds of cool stuff right between there and the stadium. So it's a natural tailgating scene. Awesome stuff. After we got done with the pregame show, we go in and I go up to the press box, which is fantastic. I mean, just really well done. Everybody's super kind to me on the way in. And then we go down on the field. Now, I'm on the field, but I think I thought my media pass was like, oh, that's why I'm able to walk down here. No, there's a whole nother concourse where a track would be at a place like KU or something like that. It's where a concourse is. Anybody with any ticket can go in, take pictures, do whatever. They've got a little pipe coming out of the ground that's constantly flowing for water, people filling up water bottles, people just using it like a water fountain. Yeah, incredible experience. So I would love to go back. I would love to play like that as well. Score was 49-14, but obviously we called the dogs off by putting Davis Bevel in with the 7:04 mark in the third quarter. This easily could have been 77-7, 84-7. I mean, it was ugly. And BB and co knew this game was on national television, much like the Kansas State game coming up, highly anticipated. Fox's prime time, which of course isn't traditional prime time. It's big noon kickoff prime time where they have everybody in that slot, all the eyeballs on it. It's no mistake that Colin Cowherd apparently watched the game. Joel Klatt called the game. Dennis Dodd was in the press box. Brady Quinn, Reggie Bush, Urban Meyer, Gus, every Jenny Tapp, everybody was watching this game. And the Sooners wanted to make it a statement win. They did. The nice thing about it is 49-14 sounds like a good win. And it is a good win. But everybody who watched the game knows that it could have been 70-7 or 77-7 or 84-7 because we called the dogs off what was essentially halftime. So, great, performances all around. Obviously, after the first series, we really got cooking, reeled off 49 straight. And Eric Gray is RB1, as I've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks. Eric Gray, 7.7 yards per carry for the season, like 10.1 on the day. Had the third most carries, but had, 110 yards or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Balling out of control. You see the strength, you see the moves, you see everything from old RB1 EG. So yeah, those are some of my impressions. Andrew, did you get to watch the game?
Yeah, I got to see most of the first quarter. I think I turned it off when it was 14-7. But I mean, overall, really impressive victory for Oklahoma. Heading into the game, I wasn't sure personally who I wanted to win the game because, as a K-State fan, I don't mind seeing Oklahoma lose, but I also really enjoy Nebraska losing. But then I also didn't really want you guys to lose because, we play you guys this week, and I didn't really want the anger from a loss. So I was like, oh, okay with Oklahoma win here. But then Nebraska came out in that first drive and had a really impressive first drive. And I was like, oh, this could be a fun game. And then the Sooners answered right back, and the rest was history. And I was checking the score throughout the rest of the game as I was out and about, and I was like, oh, it's 35-7 now. Oh, it's 42-7. Okay, this game's over. Yeah, Nebraska's not good. But overall, yeah, I mean, I thought OU looked really good in the time I got to see them. I thought Dylan Gabriel looks great, and your running game also looks fantastic all around too. Which I mean, obviously Nebraska's defense has been lackluster to say the least this season.
Not good.
But regardless, I mean, it still takes the offense to perform, even against a bad defense. So, yeah, I thought it was a really, really great victory for OU.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'd agree. It's what you want to see. And I saw a poll earlier today where somebody, I forgot who it was, they asked, OU's performance thus far, has it been what you thought? Has it been better? Has it been worse? I saw some people say what we thought as far as disciplined, as far as what you expect from a Brent Venables led team, and just what we've seen throughout his career. Even though he hasn't been a head coach, but he's been in the game long enough. But I think being able to go into a place like Lincoln and Andrew, to your point, even though Nebraska, especially their defense, has not been up to snuff at all, right? Going to a place like Lincoln where they have I think the NCAA record for consecutive sellouts, if I'm not mistaken. And those fans show up no matter what and no matter who they're playing. That's what makes it a hard place to play, right? And so you go there and you absolutely dismantle the team even after going down 7-0, right? And them having all the momentum, I think that's what impressed me the most for sure and let me know this is different than some of the Lincoln Riley-led teams. Lincoln Riley-led teams had some comebacks. I'll give them some props, but I think just to be able to respond in the way that OU did and have complete domination after that was impressive, particularly for me. All right, real quick, Trav, you spoke to this a little bit already, just quickly. We're doing our Traveling with Travis segment as we go to your away games the rest of this year. Just give us a little taste of how Lincoln was. I know you talked about it a little bit at the beginning. Is there anything else you wanted to say real quick before we move on to Andrew? He's gonna speak a little bit about the K-State Tulane game.
Yeah, you bring up the energy in the stadium. I mean, they were pulling out all the stops, and they were all in on Mickey Joseph pregame, right? Anytime you saw the video of Mickey Joseph, whether he was in the hallway waiting to bring him out to the tunnel, anything, crowd lost their minds, similar to Oklahoma fans losing their mind when we saw Brent on the video board. But very loud, very proud. And I remember looking next to me, Gavin Sawchuk was standing next to Davis Bevel. And right when that first third down happened and the crowd got the loudest it had been, Gavin Sawchuk looks to Davis Bevel and just smiles real big. His eyes get real big and just nods like, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we want. So, anyways, that goes on, and we end up dominating, right, whatnot. Well, I'm talking to one of the Soul Mission staffers, later in the game, and it's third quarter, probably late third quarter, and we're up big, 42-7, 49-7, and he looks around and he looks at me and he goes, "What are these people still doing here?" And I was like, "Dude, this is Nebraska, man. This is what they do, man. They're very proud, very loyal fan base. And they've had 13 straight losses of one, score. They probably thought, hey, we're going to get back into this because we don't know how to lose big. We don't know how to win, but we don't know how to lose big. So, but it was really impressive that, to stay there during that much of a blowout was pretty wild. But yeah, energy in the stadium was fantastic. And a lot of OU fans showed up. This was probably, obviously OU Texas doesn't count. This is probably the most impressive road travel that I had seen or heard of at the time. Tons of them. You couldn't see them all because everybody's wearing red, so it's really hard to see them all. But fantastic showing from the OU crowd. You can hear it on TV whenever Drake Stoops catches his first pass, and you just hear Stoops, which you can pick out really easily on the TV anyways because it's not just regular like clapping or something. But OU fans really showed out, did a great job getting up to the away game, made the trip, ran into a lot of people that were born in Nebraska and became OU fans because of the old rivalry. And for some reason, they just liked OU better. So that was really cool because a lot of them got to go to a game and were really excited. So, yeah, great time.
Awesome.
A reminder. We do Q&A at the end of the podcast. So last 10 minutes or so. So, Kaysen, I know you got a question in there. Kirby, I think you had one in there too. But keep in mind, those will be the end, and we're not going to be able to scroll all the way up in that time. So remember to re-ask those. Also, that sellout record is fake. Ain't no way. No, it's not fake. But there have been a couple times when some donors have purchased like 3,000 tickets because they didn't sell them all. So it's technically not fake. There have been some loopholes used. Don't put it that way.
Yeah. They hang it there for us, so we can give it to them. All right, hey, let's go ahead and move on, guys. As we said, we have our special guest Andrew of Sideline, Kansas State, and we're going to give him the floor right now and just allow him to talk about the K-State, K-State versus Tulane game. Obviously, that's a game that K-State was favored in by 14 points, and they did end up losing. Now, us as is no joke. Obviously, you can look at it and be like, "Oh, it's Tulane," But we did struggle with Tulane at home last year, albeit under a different regime. But Tulane they're not this Group of Five slouch. They're coached by a really good coach, really disciplined team. We have their best lineman now. He transferred into OU, Jeffrey Johnson, that now starts on our defensive line. So. They're no slouches at all. But anyways, Andrew, let me give you the floor, man. Just give us your perspective of the if you saw anything positive, which I don't know if you felt like you did, but
yeah. So the K-State Tulane game was one to forget for the Wildcats. Heading into the game, there was a good amount of talk about it because we were aware of Tulane's competitiveness against Oklahoma last season, and then just their other competitiveness throughout this season and the end of last season. And so the idea was to not overlook them, but it seems that happened. We pulled out some alternate helmets for the first time since 2019,
which were fire.
Yeah, they were clean. I loved them, but there's some weird thing about with some of our fans. I think that alternate uniforms are cursed for us, which we're 1-6 since we've worn alternate uniforms since like 2013, so we're not great in them. But I don't think it's.
I think every fan base says that because our fan base says the same thing. They don't like some uniforms that were like like 12-1 in or something but we lose all the time in those, but we actually don't. So trust me, not just the K-State thing. We have people that think, well, blue bloods don't have alternates. A lot of people, including myself, think we're having alternates this weekend against you guys. So,
but yeah, so the idea was hopefully that we would win this game, and hopefully that would help ease the tension of the people who really believed in that curse. But unfortunately, only hurt it more. Anyways, moving on from that part. So the game just started slow. Our defense has been on fire so far this season. They've been looking really fantastic out in the field. They're quick. They wrap up. They make stops when they need to. They have basically been the definition of clutch. And so, they came out firing in the first quarter, but the offense was just nowhere to be seen. And that's unfortunately been a lot of the story of the season so far. Our offense, we're under first-year offensive coordinator Colin Klein, and this was after we let go of our previous OC just due to probably some poor decisions, particularly in the Texas game last season, whenever there was multiple third and fourth downs, when he would, rather than running like a QB sneak or some other easier play, he tried to do speed options, run out of the shotgun, and that's just not our style. So we moved on to Colin Klein, and game one was okay. We just assumed he was hiding a lot of the playbook, which was possibly the case. Game two against Missouri, we didn't expose very much again there, so we didn't really need to. And then against Tulane, the hope was we would open up more and we'd really look into the passing game, because that really lacked throughout the first two games with Adrian Martinez. And unfortunately, it continued to do so. The weak spot of the team so far and last Saturday, outside of offensive play calling, was the quarterback and Adrian Martinez. If you look at his stats, they don't look that bad. He went like 21 for 31 for 150 yards and touchdown, no interceptions, no fumbles. So retrospect, doesn't look that bad, but I would say 60 to 70% of his throws were probably checkdowns, and usually that was his first look also. He wasn't usually looking down the field. I think he threw down the field itself 2 or 3 times maybe, and one of them was the touchdown he threw, which was to Cade Warner in the second quarter, that Nebraska connection. And it was a really beautiful throw, but otherwise he wasn't looking down the field or taking shots. And that's just been really worrying to our entire fan base, because, the Adrian Martinez we saw at Nebraska was this guy who would, he would run wild. He would take those shots and he would take risks. And that's not what we've seen so far. And so, all offseason we heard from Nebraska fans, oh, Adrian Martinez is not good. He's going to, commit all these turnovers and whatnot. And, that's not the Adrian Martinez we've seen so far. He hasn't been good, but he's not committing turnovers. He still has 0 on the season, but we don't know. All the speculation is we just think he maybe scared to take shots. He maybe has nerves about turnovers because he's had the issue so much at Nebraska.
I think that was asked in the press conference, right? When they got some availability with Adrian, they said, "Are you scared to throw the ball downfield?" And
I don't.
Of course, his answer was his answer. Of course not. We just gotta. I mean, what quarterback's gonna be like? Yeah, I'm terrified, absolutely terrified to throw the ball downfield. Have you seen those guys? Yeah, I'm not throwing to him. He's not gonna do that.
Right. Yeah. So we speculate he's probably has nerves about throwing the ball and taking those shots and committing a turnover. And, some of the thought was maybe he was coached that way at K-State. They're, saying like, hey, don't take these shots. Let's play clean football. But then in the press conference, or maybe it was on the Tuesday press conference, somebody asked Coach Kleiman about it. And basically they said, like, he needs to take shots. Like, he needs to be willing to look down the field and throw the ball down the field. And so that's going to be very important looking forward to Oklahoma. But back to Tulane, just the offense did not move the ball at all. Special teams is kind of what we're known for, but we didn't really get any opportunities there. We had one field goal attempt, and it was good, which was great because our kicker has struggled some this season. So it's excellent that he was able to convert that. But otherwise, I mean, even when we got the ball off of a turnover down near the 25-yard line, I think that resulted in the field goal, I think. And so we had trouble punching it in from short fields. We had trouble moving the ball all day long. Tulane played an excellent defensive game plan. They planned around Deuce Vaughn, which I think every team should probably do.
You have to.
Yeah, and it exposed how one-dimensional our offense has been. And then on top of that, once we got into those 3rd down and 4th down situations, it just got really difficult because the play calling wasn't what we needed to be. Or, if it was a pass across the middle of the field, it'd be 6 or 4 yards short of the 1st down line. And then they get tackled and it's 4th down. So, K-State went 2 for 15 on 3rd downs and 1 for 5 on 4th downs in the game. So it's combined 3 for 20, which is just simply not acceptable at a D1 level, FBS level against a G5 opponent. And yes, Tulane is a very talented team, but we should have the better talent overall and better skill and coaching. And we just didn't get those opportunities. And then, so the very first 4th down we had that we attempted, we ran a QB sneak, which is always what my vote is for in a 4th and short. Do a QB sneak. It works almost every time. It gives you the best chance. And we did that and we converted it and it was great. And then we had 4 more 4th downs and we did not see the QB sneak again. And every single one we did not convert. And then, we were tied with Tulane 10-10 going into the 4th quarter. Tulane scored to go up 17-10 late 4th quarter. And then it was just puzzling from the play calling and coaching. Because we're on our final drive to try to tie the game, and we get to the 3rd down, and I think it was 3rd down and 6. No, 3rd down and 10, I think. And at that point you're thinking, okay, they need to throw probably an out route here, something to get a 1st down or really close to the 1st down line. And for whatever reason, we did a shovel pass, and we lost 2 yards on the play. So I was like, okay, why did we just do a shovel pass there? And so it brings up 4th and 12, 2 minutes and 15 seconds to go. We're at the 50-yard line. So anybody's thinking here, okay, they're going to go for it to go for the 1st down. If they don't get it, it's turnover on downs, and all Tulane has to do is get a 1st down, and they win. And what happens is K-State punts the ball away. That's after going for it all day on 4th down, and then they punted away. And I'm like, granted, we probably wouldn't have gotten the 1st down, but
they really didn't want to put anything on. They really didn't want to put anything on film for OU. I mean, that's commitment right there. That's commitment.
Yeah. So
we don't want to show you what we would do on a potential game-winning drive. So we're just going to choose not to do one.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I guess he was relying on the defense to make a stop, and to their credit, they did. They stopped him in 3 downs, forced a 4th and 1, and Tulane decided to go for it on their own 20-yard line, which is really gutsy. So great call by Willie Fritz, but just give it for a second. Tulane has a 4th and 1, and they decided to go for it, and lo and behold, they're on a QB sneak. And they convert it, would never believe that one. So, that was a ball game, and not a great game.
Yeah, I know that you couldn't have been happy, but after I messaged you and see if you wanted to come on, I was just looking through some of your tweets, and I saw how upset you were about the QB sneak in particular. You even I think you added Colin Klein.
Yeah, that was a carry on from last season. Whenever we played Texas, we had the same issue. I posted those same 2 pictures and tagged Courtney Messingham in them. Of course, they're not going to respond to it or reply or anything like that. But then I had to bring him back out again. Didn't think I'd have to, but here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Well, hey, that's a great segue, and thank you for your perspective on that. Obviously,
Mhm.
again, didn't want to see that happen, but nonetheless, this weekend is still a big game. I think for both teams. For Kansas State, and I'll let you speak more to this, Andrew. I want to speak out of turn here, but I think obviously now it's a time to bounce back, but also you had some people that thought Kansas State may be able to fight for one of the top 3 or 4 spots in the conference this year. And so, being able to compete with and potentially even beat OU, especially in Norman, I think would say that even with a loss to Tulane. And then obviously for OU, for us, it says, hey, can we beat a quality K-State team who we know is going to be well coached, who we know is going to have great defense and has, on your defensive line. And I'm not going to attempt to say his name because I don't want to butcher it. But one of the better defensive linemen in the nation. I think he's projected to be a first round pick, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a beast, and he's going to be a huge test for our offensive line. Then, not to mention Deuce Vaughn, who again is at the very least a top 5 running back in college football. Some would say top 3. Some would even probably say top 2. But he's that for years, and we've seen him torch us for years. And so, I'm interested to see kind of how we defend that. But that's kind of where I'll say and leave it for you guys. But Trav, I'll have you go first, man. What are some things that worry you about K-State? What are some things you're looking forward to see if OU can do with Kansas State this weekend?
Well, what worries me is begins and ends pretty much with Deuce Vaughn. The guy is an absolute nightmare. He's torched us before. He's torched others before. He's just as dangerous getting out on routes as he is getting the handoff or getting a pitch or anything like that. I spoke with Patrick Fields this week. Talked to him because he was tasked last year with covering him out of the backfield. And I asked him, I said, hey, what advice would you give to somebody that's cast with the same to kind of spy him out of the backfield? And he says, good luck. That's all he said. He's like, he's insane. He's like, he'll give you every single look. He's so quick that he can make any look work, or he can make, disguise looks really well in his route running. So this is a super talented guy. I think you shut down Deuce Vaughn, you shut down their offense. Adrian Martinez, I think he's 100th in the country in QBR right now. He's 126th, I believe, in pass yards per game. So I don't think he's going to stretch the field. At least we haven't seen him stretch the field against us. So I think you sell out on Deuce Vaughn. And if Adrian wants to beat us with his arm going down the field, then you let the DBs test it. You let them play man, and kind of push everybody down towards the box. So I think our corners have yet to really be tested, anyways. So if they have the opportunity to be, I would love for that to come this week. So my score prediction, I was not as aggressive as I needed to be with Nebraska. I started 31-13, and then the day before on the Friday rush with Teddy and Tyler, I went to 42-13. I was still a touchdown shy. So I will say that we are going to be, Andrew, don't hate me, but 42-10. I haven't been too aggressive on a score yet, so I'm going 42-10 simply because we saw Nebraska. Nebraska can score. Nebraska has scored fine all year, even going last year. Casey Thompson can be productive. They had one of the best running backs in the nation, actually more production than even Deuce Vaughn, which is rarefied air when it comes to running backs. And the starters held them to 7 points. It wasn't going to be, they would not have scored again, and we weren't going to stop scoring. And with Kansas State, I got to clear this up real quick in the chat. Deshaun White is not out at all this game. He got ejected in the first half. That means he missed the second half. He's fully eligible. So Anyways, I think we go big because we were averaging 8 points a game through 2 games on the defense as far as allowed. We should have had 7 against Nebraska before that late garbage time situation. So we should be around 7.8 points per game. And I think Kansas State gets 10 because I think we're able to neutralize Deuce Vaughn by focusing on him. And I think the run game has really opened up for us. Their defensive line is talented, no doubt. Our offensive line has improved with Wanya back in the lineup. It kind of gives a whole different kind of confidence. I do think we were able to see Farouk kind of get going, flex on him a little bit. And then obviously Marvin Mims does what he does. I think you see a little more Jaden Gibson and a little more JJ Hester personally this week. I think Braden Willis is going to keep finding those seam routes up the middle over that very talented defensive line. So yeah, I'm again aggressive here. I get it, but 42-10 is my guess. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can't fault you for aiming high there. I don't like it, but I can't fault you. I think, as I've said, K-State's defense has been a really strong point so far. Joe Kleinerman has us playing a typical 3-3-5, and we look really strong when doing. We can force turnovers. Our front line is very strong. We have Felix Enudike Uzama. I don't think I pronounced it right. I think I got it wrong too, but pretty close. But he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. He had originally tied the NCAA record for sacks in the game last season before they removed it because he forced fumbles on the sacks, and I guess they didn't count them then because of that. Regardless, so you have him, Eli Huggins in the middle, and then normally would have Nate Matlack out on the edge, but he did pick up an injury last game, so I think he's expected to still show up. I don't think he'll start, but he was also one of the freshman of the year last year, or as honorable mention, something of that sort. So if he's playing and he's looking healthy, definitely somebody to watch out for on the defensive front for K-State. Our linebackers have sometimes the depth there is a little suspect, but we have Daniel Green leading the charge there, which he last year was excellent, even missing the equivalent of a whole game basically because he was ejected twice for targeting. So him leading the charge, and then we also have Brendan Mott and Austin Moore, who have both stepped up big time this season so far. And then our safeties and defensive backs are also looking really, really great also. So I think our defense really will be a strong point. And though Oklahoma's offense is very strong and fast, as they normally are, I do think they will be able to make some stops still and hopefully force some turnovers. Again, the question mark remains on offense. Will Adrian air the ball out? Will he run the ball and, lower his shoulder? Because that was also a thing we saw in the Tulane game that I didn't mention. When he runs the ball, it's almost like he's scared to get hit. He doesn't go into contact. He either runs out of bounds or he slides or just he doesn't initiate the contact. And, I don't fault him for that completely, but sometimes it's kind of important. Like if it's a 3rd and 8 and you're 2 yards away from the first down line, initiate contact and get the first down. Don't run out of bounds 2 yards short. So I think another question mark will be, will he not be afraid running the ball, especially if OU does centralize on Deuce Vaughn and really focus on stopping him, because as we saw last week against Tulane, they really focused on that and they succeeded wonderfully at that. They held him to under 100 yards, which was his first time being under in quite some time. And so I think a lot of the game plan offensively for K-State will have to rely on Adrian Martinez and probably throwing the ball. Of course, I'm going to be optimistic, and I'm going to say that he finally, breaks out of that shell. And the score prediction I'm going to use straight from my full season predictions I made back in August. Of course, I said we beat Tulane in this one too, so stuff happens. But I did say we were going to beat Oklahoma 31-26. I will be in attendance, so hoping for a good game.
You got to come by the radio remote.
Yeah, where are you guys stationed at?
I'll be doing we'll be doing pregame from the campus corner parking lot right outside of Hertz Donuts and whatnot. We'll be doing pregame from 4 to 6, and then postgame will be at Yo Pablo. But by the time the game's over, when you see the student section clear out, like fourth quarter-ish, they're all going home to change so they can go to Yo Pablo. So when we get there, there's already a line like 100 deep. So you'll have to pop by we set up on the patio, so you have to pop by and say hi after that.
All right, sounds great.
Yeah, I think, like I said at the beginning, when looking at this game, for me, it's going to come down to, can OU neutralize Deuce Vaughn and say, Adrian Martinez, we're going to have to allow you to beat us. And I think that's exactly what Brent Venables is going to do. Now, Chris Kleiman talked about it in his press conference. BV is one of the better, if not best, defensive minds out there, and he knows his defense, and he gives different looks, and it's hard to know what to plan for. But regardless of what look you get, you can almost guarantee that they're going to be centralized on Deuce. And so can Adrian make the plays? And historically, for whatever reason, no matter how mediocre a quarterback has been before playing OU, somehow when they play OU, they start to look like Patrick Mahomes. So, I remember when we played Kansas last year, who's their quarterback right now?
Jalen Daniels.
Jalen Daniels. So I thought it was another guy last year. Trav, do you remember the guy's name? He was light skinned.
Bean. Was it Bean? It was the first name.
Yes, it was Jason Bean. And he had like a 50% completion percentage. And then he plays us, and he's literally running to the side, just gunning balls in the middle of the field that get completed. And I'm like, what has happened? Like, I'm listening to Teddy Lehman say this guy is not going to be able to complete passes down the field. Yet here he is late the third quarter with a 75%, completion percentage. So, I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Adrian Martinez, but we'll see. Whether that's just bad luck or the defense that we were playing at the time, I don't know. But I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that. And then offensively for us, I think it's just about being able to be consistent. If our offensive line continues to play the way that they did against Nebraska, and again, the defensive line for Kansas State is solid as can be, and they'll probably be facing maybe short of getting to the playoff, the best defensive end that they'll see. And your guy is still not going to butcher his name. I'm not going to try it. But if we can handle that, him and you guys up front, and be able to run the ball like we want to, I think with our pace, we do have playmakers at wide receiver that are hard to stop, and I think that we'll be able to give you guys a good test. So I'm going to probably say I'm going to go 38-17 is my score prediction. OU, of course. I think ultimately we'll hopefully win out just in terms of talent and whatnot, and hopefully be able to get away with a solid win against a good Kansas State team. Trav, do you have some?
I'm just saying I'm admittedly being aggressive here. In weeks past, I probably would have picked a closer game, but I'm trying to learn from my mistakes and go against my gut. I did want to ask Andrew before we get into this or that or the questions. What are your thoughts on playing second fiddle now in your own state with KU grabbing all the headlines?
It's kind of weird. I didn't expect to finish last week and say that there's one team in Kansas ranked that's 3-0 and it's not K-State. That was very strange to think. I mean, I don't like when they win, but I want them to be better than terrible, because I think it's better for not only the conference but the state, and whenever K-State plays KU, it's better for everybody all around. And I still think we will beat them handily. I mean, I think Jalen Daniels is looking fantastic right now. I think he's really good. But I still think that we can beat them, especially because they're our last game. We should have a lot of time to hopefully warm up to ourselves by that point. If not, then we're in trouble. But yeah, it's definitely weird right now. Weird vibes.
Yeah, with what's funny is Tyler and I were talking on the radio today, and it was about the Nebraska coaching search, and obviously Lance Leopold has his name in there. Apparently, people around the 402 were thinking Dave Aranda, and the scenario is on the table that the Baylor head coach and the Kansas head coach would both turn down the Nebraska job. The scenario is on the table, and if you were to tell that to Nebraska in 1995 that KU and Baylor's coaches would consider those jobs better than the Nebraska job, their heads would explode. Even Iowa State, like their heads would explode. But
20 years ago, if I told you 20 years ago that players were transferring from Nebraska to K-State because they wanted to win, oof.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Dang. Yeah. How the mighty have fallen. All right. Hopefully they find a guy that can bring them somewhat back because, yeah, those fans need it and they deserve it. They do. Hey, let's play our patented game, this or that. As I told our guest Andrew before, it's a game where I have 3 prompts, random prompts, that I'm going to say, here's one thing, here's another thing. Those are your only 2 options. If a gun was to your head, what are you choosing? And you have to give a little bit of a reason and rationale as to why. We've had some fun ones. We've had some crazy ones. We'd let the chat get involved too. So let's go ahead and start. And in honor of you, Andrew, I did a K-State one. And I've been known to do some hard ones now. So I apologize if I put you in a precarious situation. Darren Sproles or Deuce Vaughn? Which one would you rather have? K-State. K-State. As K-State players, we're not going to talk about what Darren Sproles did in the NFL.
Okay. Man. I think right now I'd have to go with Darren Sproles still. I mean, obviously Deuce is fantastic in his own right. And I was too young to watch Darren Sproles play. I was 3 or 4 years old when he was playing. But just watching highlight reels of him and hearing the impact that he really had on the field. I mean, it's very similar to Deuce, but it just, at this point, it was an even stronger impact, which is saying a lot. And, the guy was so fast and so shifty. I remember, watching highlights of the 2003 Big 12 championship game, when K-State beat Oklahoma 35-7. And sorry, guys. But just watching him run free in that game, I'd have to go with Darren Sproles. I think at this point, it could change within the next year or so. But
yeah, Trav.
Yeah, it's Sproles. He brings up that 2003 game. I still remember the next day's newspaper, the Tulsa World, and it was Tommy Harris, and there was steam coming off of his head because it was so cold in that game, and he was so hot from playing in the game. It was just I'll never forget that next morning. But yeah, Sproles Sproles had a better team around him for sure. It would be interesting to see what Deuce Vaughn would have done on that team, and maybe vice versa. But yeah, Sproles is hard to beat. He's a K-State legend, no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Sorry you lagged a little bit there. If I was late getting in. But yeah, no, Darren Sproles is a monster. And I will say the fact that I even was thinking about putting Deuce Vaughn and Darren Sproles sentence, I think speaks to the type has been for the Kansas State Wildcats because he has been their offense the last 2 years. I mean, I hate to even bring this up, but it's our guy Baker Mayfield, right, is out in Carolina, and it's the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey has been the offense the last couple of years. Now we're hoping that Bacon Ben McAdoo can get it together and that Bacon can help Christian out a little bit. But it's kind of the same thing that Deuce Vaughn has been to Kansas State the last couple of years, and obviously Skylar Thompson's had his moment or moments, excuse me, but. I think anybody would say that Deuce Vaughn has been the best offensive player for the Wildcats. But Darren Sproles, again, I think had a better college career. Now, again, we'll see what happens in about a year or so. But now I thought we'd do a quick K-State one for you. That was probably a little tough to reckon with. But Darren Sproles, I think, was the consensus answer even in the chat. All right, let's go to a little bit of Oklahoma one. Trent Williams or Lane Johnson. Now we're talking college, right? Not NFL, talking college. Now both of them are the highest paid at their positions in the NFL, which, hey, O-line, you come to Oklahoma. But in college, which one would you guys have rather had? Trent Williams or Lane Johnson?
I'll go ahead. Trent Williams is the answer for me. It is tough though, especially when you just consider college. But I've got to go with Trent Williams. His size is insane. His athleticism is insane. Not to say Lane's isn't, but you see him even this deep into his NFL career. He's lining up in the backfield, and they're bringing him across the formation to be a lead blocker. I mean, that kind of athleticism is impressive at his size. I got to go with Trent.
Gotcha. Andrew, I'll give you out on this one if you feel like you may not know enough about the two from their college days. If you do, I'll let you go ahead and take the floor.
Well, I definitely don't know enough, but the chat seems to be saying Trent Williams pretty in consensus, and we just heard it here too. So I'll go Trent Williams just for the heck of it.
Sure.
Peer pressure, got it.
Yeah, Trent Williams was a beast, and like I said, it's close because Lane Johnson. I mean, you're talking about a guy that came into OU, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as a tight end, right, Trav, and had to bulk up to become an offensive lineman.
He's a quarterback in high school.
Yeah, was he a quarterback and then moved to tight end and then offensive lineman? Is that what happened? So he really had to bulk up and learn a whole new position, and to think that he was what he was in college, and obviously got drafted in the 4th overall pick to the Eagles, and is now the highest paid right tackle in the league, is amazing. But yeah, I think Trent has just always been, and it's crazy. He was a 3-star, recruit. That's right, they have to, right? I mean, you look at Georgia and Alabama, like it's why they're what they are. But at the same time, like when you can develop talent, and I think that's what, if anything, in the Big 12, while the Big 12 may not have staying star power besides, obviously OU or Texas that will get 5 stars, I think the Big 12 almost more than any other league develops that, we haven't had a ton of high draft picks all the time. When you look at different leagues, SEC for the most part, and Big Ten kind of take those cakes. But just overall, as far as how college goes and the way they perform on the field, I think the Big 12 has had a really good coaches and really good developing programs like a K-State, right, like an Iowa State. Even when Dane was at West Virginia, we've always had a lot of great development. So OU, is no slouch. Now Texas is the one outlier because they can't develop anybody. Haven't been able to for the last decade. But we'll see if that changes under this new regime. My money's on no, but we'll see. Whatever. Anyways, getting out that rabbit trail. Yeah, I'll choose Trent Williams as well. All right. So Andrew, just preparing you. We always do a food one. Again, Trav is a restaurant owner. Chef, food connoisseur. So we always try to do a food one. It's getting hard because I've done so many, but I thought we'd go dessert this week. So peach cobbler or apple pie. And we'll just for the sake of it say you got a big old, scoop of vanilla ice cream on the top. What are we choosing, fellas? Andrew, I'll start with you.
Go ahead, Andrew.
All right. I think I got with the peach cobbler. I mean, personally, I'm a huge fan of like fruity desserts, and obviously these are like right in my wheelhouse then. But I think the peach cobbler offers more of that fruit and less crust. And I love a good peach cobbler, and with the ice cream on top, you can't beat that, honestly. I mean, peach cobbler, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is a tough one. So a little bit of background on me. Didn't grow up eating a ton of sweets. My beautiful mother, Sue, is diabetic since the age of 10. So she's always been great at making a bunch of great sugar-free desserts. But I was always kind of raised like salty, and very spicy. Those are kind of my thing. Not a massive dessert guy, but I will say the move here is apple pie, hot apple pie with a big old scoop of vanilla ice cream on it. Extremely hard to beat. I am a fruit in the dessert type of guy as well. For my birthday every year, I get a strawberry pie from my mother. She does fresh cut strawberries with the Shasta sugar-free soda with sugar-free strawberry jello. So it's like this strawberry pie, but since it's like healthy, graham cracker crust, it's good for you. So you can have it for breakfast, or at least I reason it. I reason through it that I can have it for breakfast, because if people can have donuts for breakfast, I can have fresh fruit, and graham crackers. Seems like it makes sense to me. So yeah, between the two though, I do love me some peach cobbler. Don't get me wrong. If there's just the difference between the fruits, I like peaches over apples. But when you put them in this dessert setting, I'm going apple pie with a big old scoop of vanilla ice cream.
Now, I love apples. Love going to apple orchards. Me and my wife go to a good apple orchard here in Indianapolis, Tuttle's Orchard, every year. Unfortunately, the last 2 years.
Do you wear your Uggs?
It's been during Red River Rivalry, literally the last 2 years that we went. And so the last 2 years, I was on my phone the entire time and, stressed out because last year, right, we won, in a crazy comeback, right, with that interception at the end. And then the year before that, 2020, it was the quadruple overtime game. And
Bro, you're spending OU Texas at an apple orchard?
Look, I love my wife, okay? But I know. Now, to be fair, what happened was we were already out because, and again, it's going to happen again this year. We host the state championship cross country meet. Andrew, I'm an athletic director up here in Indianapolis. We host the state championship cross country meet. The last now 3 years, it will have been on the Red River Rivalry. So I am there having to watch the Red River Rivalry on my phone after I hand out awards. So this year I said, look, we're not going to go so I can have my full attention on the game, and then we can go another day so that, I can have my full attention on the apple orchard, because she don't want the undivided attention. And I told her, look, babe, it is what it is. You know how OU football goes, but at the same time, I gotta figure out how to balance that for my wife about the football. I'm gonna stop talking now because I'm probably digging a hole, and when I get off the live stream, I'm probably gonna get smacked. So
there are 364 other days.
I know.
There's other parts of that same day.
I caved.
There's 364 and a half days.
I know.
3/4 of it, 364 and 3/4. You can't cut out a quarter of a day every year. That has to be apple orchard day.
We've learned We've learned it's not going to happen this year.
Oh boy!
Look, one
Oh
of these
man!
years, it's finally not going to be on that day, so that I can actually come to the regular rivalry, and hang out with you. But yeah, I
Better
can't.
bring some apples.
Shut up. Let me get to my answer. Apple pie obviously is my answer because
Obviously,
I love apples and going to apple orchards during the rivalry, biggest game of the year for OU. But anyways, I eat Apple Jacks. I'm just an apple connoisseur, really. So peach cobbler though is
got
heat.
an iPhone. Big Apple guy.
Peach cobbler is heat though. I will take peach cobbler almost over any other dessert besides apple pie. I will always take a great apple pie that's hot, fresh, vanilla ice cream on top. You add some cinnamon too, and I'm telling you, to die for. I feel like Travis gonna kill me. Hey, let's move on to let's move on to our Q&A. And throw it down in the chat if you have questions. Obviously, for Trav and I, it's there, but we also have Andrew with us, and we don't want to take too much more of his time. So if you have Kansas State questions, anything you want to know, please drop in the chat so we can go ahead and get them answered and get him and ourselves out of here because it's been a long, long day. Okay, here's one for you, Andrew. What do you think of Brent Venables' defense?
I think his defense is fantastic. I think he's done a great job just in a short time in Norman already. I mean, obviously, looking back at his time at Clemson, he ran a top defense in the country there. Obviously, head coaching is a little different, but, defense is his main thing, and he's done a great job getting that started already. He brought in Jaron Kanak, I think that's how you say his name, flipped him from Clemson to come to OU with them, and he made a big difference last week I saw, which is great because, he was a K-State target also. He's from Hays, Kansas, so we were all very familiar with him, and yeah, I think Venables is doing a great job in Norman with the defense, and I'm personally excited to play Venables because, he's a K-State alum. Might be a little weird for him to face off against us, but I'm excited for all of that too. So,
yeah, I don't know if you saw. Man, I need to get that off the screen. We're done talking about apple pie. I don't know if you saw, but Brent Venables was talking about texting Coach Bill Snyder and talking about him winning and like, hey, go get that fourth one. He didn't realize what week it was.
Yeah.
He was like, wait, sorry, not this week.
Yeah, I did see that. That was funny.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Bill
absolutely.
Snyder.
All right, here, Trav. Here's one for you. Do you feel good about Ryan Yates, who's visiting the K-State game this weekend, and his dad is visiting for the first time apparently? Kaysen thinks this weekend he feels like is our chance to flip him from LSU. Muted.
Sorry, I had to cough earlier. Yes, I believe that Yates is still a strong flip candidate. I think that because we haven't pursued other safety options, because keep in mind, so Peyton Bowen, I still think ends up at OU. Well, we'll leave the light on longer for the 5-star talent, Peyton Bowen, than we would Ryan Yates. But it seems like Ryan Yates has given the staff enough reason to believe that he is leaning this way because they haven't gone after a guy like Conrad Hussey or Burks. They haven't gone after their other safety targets yet. And I think once you see that happen is when you think they're done with Yates. So since you haven't seen that happen, you're getting his family on campus, at least his dad on campus. It'll be a night game under the lights. Unfortunately, it'll be a 31-26 loss to Kansas State, according to Andrew. But regardless, we'll tell him that we would have won had we had Ryan Yates on there. So, just like Texas A&M always tells all their recruits, oh, we would have won if we had you on the team. But regardless, very good sign. Brian Yates getting back to campus and bringing his dad with him. I do think that he ends up a Sooner.
Good deal. Good deal. Ty, I'm not sure if you who do we think the offensive and defensive like MVP will be?
Offensive and defensive players. I'm going to go offense will be Eric Gray, Dylan Gabriel, Wanya Morris, Chris Murray, Kay Matire, Anton Harrison, Andrew Rain, Jaleel Farouk, Marvin Mims, Theo Weiss, Braden Willis.
You're throwing out the whole roster right now.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what the question says. Here's Jacob with his Marcus Major take every week.
Why do we talk so much about RB2? Look, I know you missed it, but Eric Gray, we all talked about the opportunity against Nebraska was there for a running back to separate himself. And Eric Gray separated himself. He had the third most carries, but he had the highest yards per carry by far. Had the highest, had 2 rushing touchdowns, good-looking runs. He's got the patience now. One coach told me that, and I'm not sure if I said this earlier, but the coach told me that he is seeing the field so much better because he's understanding that a pace of an offense is determined by the time between snaps and not once you actually snap the ball. Once you snap the ball, he was rushing, so he was hitting the hole early and not really getting his vision in check. So now he's got a little bit more patience. He's letting the blocks get set, letting that hole open up, and then hitting it, kind of like a Le'Veon Bell type situation when he was at the height of his powers, having that kind of patience and then attacking. So, yeah. So, EG RB1. Let's see. Lots of Jaron Connect questions.
I'll answer I'll look at the one that was earlier that said, do I think Connect and White will split time this week? I think that Deshaun will be the guy early on. Obviously Connect looked good, but he was in there to spell him as he was ejected. I don't think, you know what I mean, that Deshaun's going to lose out, but I do think you find a way to get there and Connect more snaps.
No, Deshaun White has been playing so well that he's keeping Justin Harrington off the field. Justin Harrington was playing so well that, I mean, a lot of people picked him as their defensive MVP preseason, all Big 12 selection. Some people were saying All-American. So Deshaun White has been playing incredibly. Nebraska, he was having a heck of a game. He got ejected in the second quarter and still finished with second tackles on the day. Jaron overran some things, but that's going to happen when you're a freshman. You heard Brent Venables say, look, the kid doesn't know what he's doing out there. Sure, he is faster and stronger than a lot of people in that position, especially as a true freshman. But we don't want Jaron starting. We want Deshaun White starting. He knows the defense a little bit better. He knows the position better. He knows where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be. And from that position, you need that type of reliability. And Jaron will have an incredible future, future Butkus finalists or winners, whatever. But there's no need to put Jaron in that position to start. I think Deshaun White is your bona fide starter, and he should be because he's been playing fantastic.
Agreed. All right, we got a couple more questions for Andrew, and then we'll go ahead and get on out of here. Andrew, Stephen G asked, do you think K-State will be in the Big 12 championship game this year?
Well, I mean, I think, honestly, the team has the personnel to do it. It's just a matter of if they can deliver or not. As I've talked about before, if the passing game can open up, and then several other things have to happen too. But it's definitely possible. Based on how we've seen the Big 12 teams play so far, if I had to give an honest opinion right now, I would say no. I would say they'd probably finish around 4th or 5th, maybe even 6th, based on how they played. But we still have every single Big 12 game to go, so that's 9 games, lots of opportunities. So very possible. if I had to answer for right this moment, I would say no.
And then last one, how do you, as a K-State fan, feel about OU and Texas deciding to go to the SEC? And I'll add to that, what do you think Kansas State's future is in the new Big 12, adding the 4 teams? Do you see you guys as, more of a, if I'll say cream of the crop, 1, 2, 3 every year contender in the Big 12?
In terms of the move to the SEC for OU and Texas, definitely when it first happened, I, as well as, the rest of us were pretty upset about it, just in terms of also panicking about, are we is our conference going to go downhill? Because, if the Big 12 were to dissolve, K-State's probably one of those teams, kind of like, Oregon State might be for the Pac-12, that wouldn't get picked up by a major conference. And so that was a big worry of ours was, what's going to happen to us? How could OU and Texas just leave us in the dust like this? Which, it's a lot of money calling your guys' names, and that's fine. I feel like most administrations would probably do that. That's kind of their job, is to keep the institutions alive financially. I think at this point, people have all settled on it. We're all fine with it. At this point, it's just kind of seeing out the last games we get to play with you guys and, attending those and being a part of those and getting to experience this one last time. And then in terms of the new Big 12, I know that I'm really excited about it. I think BYU is an excellent addition. Same with UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. Houston's probably the least of the 4, but personal opinion there. And then, the possibilities of further expansion with further westward, I think is also really exciting for the Big 12, because how it looks right now is the Big 12 will likely be the 3rd conference. You'll have the Big 10 and the SEC at the top, and then a second tier is the Big 12. And if the ACC and Pac-12 both manage to survive, I don't know, but that's, I think, further off in the future than we think still. But yeah, I think we're all okay with it at this point, and we're all excited for the future and how that's looking. So as for how K-State will stand in that new Big 12, I want to say we'll lean around the top 4 year in, year out. I feel like we have good stability. Our AD has done excellent work. Our facilities are all really excellent. We're building a brand new volleyball facility right now. So we have really excellent facilities. Hopefully that can help bring in more student athletes to Manhattan, Kansas. And, personal, somewhat homer opinion, I'll say that we stick around the top 4 year in, year out.
I don't think that's unrealistic, especially with the coach that you guys have. I know we probably aren't too happy after a Tulane game, but I still think Chris Kleiman's one of the better coaches, in the business, and that he's going to definitely have you guys moving in the right direction. Trav, what are you gonna say?
Especially after Leopold gets sniped by whoever. He's going to be Nebraska's head coach, or Auburn's head coach, or Arizona State's head coach, or the Carolina Panthers head coach. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, guys, we appreciate you coming out with us tonight. Andrew, man, thanks for being willing to come on. And it was a great time. And again, it sounds like, and so hopefully you'll get to say what's up to Trav over there on Campus Corner. And hey, if y'all see Andrew, treat him nicely, right? Be hospitable, right? Even as we hope to give the Wildcats a butt kicking, we always want to be hospitable to the fans and everything like that. So if you see Andrew, tell me so. I'm on JP and Trav show. Say what's up to him. Treat him well. Trav, you got anything, man?
No. If you see JP over the weekend in an orange grove or a pear orchard, make sure and be nice to him. Tell him hello. Give him some dessert recipes to use for those fruit. Something like that. Maybe cut up some of the fruit, put it with some shortbread and some cream, something like that. So, anybody else stop by the KREF remote, say hi. We're going to have Jeremiah Hall. Jeremiah Hall is going to be joining us for the pregame show. KREF. We're going to be doing that right in the parking lot outside Hertz Donuts and Nompton and everything like that. So other than that, appreciate you, Andrew. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, we'll see y'all next week. Boomer.
So,
And